At midnight on May 15, 2026, Drake dropped 3 albums at the same time. Not one album, not a double album. 3 complete, separate studio albums released simultaneously into the world without warning. Iceman, Maid of Honor, Habibti. Hundreds of millions of streams in the first 24 hours, numbers 1, 2, and 3 on iTunes simultaneously. 17 full music videos released alongside the albums, the biggest single-day streaming debut for any artist on Amazon Music in all of 2026. Combined, the 3 projects set the record for the largest first 24-hour streaming debut globally for any artist on Amazon Music this year. On the surface, it looks like a superstar making a statement, showing the world he is still the biggest name in music, flexing a catalog that most artists could not build in a decade, let alone a single night. But underneath the numbers and the noise, music industry insiders immediately understood what was actually happening. Because Drake did not drop 3 albums because he felt creative. He dropped 3 albums because he needed to get out of a contract. And the contract he needs to get out of belongs to Universal Music Group, the most powerful music corporation on the planet, the same company he has been publicly fighting in court for the past 18 months, the same company he is accused of destroying his reputation, the same company he raps about directly on the new album, calling them the man he is fighting and singing about just wanting to be free. This is the full story of Drake versus Universal Music Group. The beef that started it, the lawsuit that followed, the court dismissal that infuriated him, the appeal that is still live right now, and the 3 albums dropped at midnight that may be the most expensive and most creative exit strategy in the history of the music industry. Before we go any further, subscribe to this channel right now. We cover stories like this every single day. Every day. Not once a week, every single day. If you want the real story behind the music, the business moves, the legal battles, and the power plays that the industry hopes you will never fully understand, hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell right now. Now let us go all the way back to where this actually started. Aubrey Drake Graham was born on October 24, 1986 in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. His father, Dennis Graham, was a drummer from Memphis, Tennessee who played with Jerry Lee Lewis. His mother, Sandra Graham, raised him largely alone after his parents separated when he was 5. He grew up in 2 worlds, spending time in the Forest Hill neighborhood of Toronto during the school year and visiting Memphis during summers. Both places shaped him: the Canadian multicultural identity, the Southern American musical roots, the specific kind of ambition that comes from a child who learns early that the world he wants to live in does not automatically include him. He started acting as a teenager, landing a role on the Canadian teen drama Degrassi: The Next Generation in 2001. For 7 years of television work, he gained discipline and visibility, and the specific skill set that comes from performing in front of cameras before you are old enough to drive. It also gave him money when he needed it, money he used to fund his early music career during a period when nobody in the music industry was paying attention to a Canadian actor who thought he could rap. He started releasing mixtapes in 2006. Room for Improvement, Comeback Season, So Far Gone. Each one built his reputation in a specific and cumulative way. So Far Gone, in particular, arrived in 2009 and changed everything. Lil Wayne heard it. Wayne was at that point the most celebrated rapper in America, a man whose ear for talent had launched careers and whose cosign meant more than almost any other endorsement in hip-hop. He signed Drake to Young Money Entertainment, and the rocket ship ignited. Thank Me Later came in 2010 and debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200. Take Care came in 2011 and won the Grammy for Best Rap Album. Nothing Was the Same in 2013. If you're reading this, it's too late in 2015. Views in 2016, which spent 13 consecutive weeks on #1 on the Billboard 200. More Life in 2017, Scorpion in 2018, Dark Lane demo tapes in 2020, Certified Lover Boy in 2021, Honestly Nevermind in 2022, Her Loss in 2022 with 21 Savage, For All the Dogs in 2023. The numbers across that catalog are genuinely difficult to process. Over 170 million records sold worldwide, the most streamed artist in Spotify history for multiple consecutive years. More Billboard Hot 100 entries than any artist in the chart's history, a record he broke and then extended again. Chart positions and streaming numbers that no other artist in any genre has come close to matching across the same period of time. Drake did not just succeed in music, he redefined what commercial success in music looked like in the streaming era. In 2021, fresh off the back of Certified Lover Boy's commercial dominance, Drake re-signed with Universal Music Group. The deal was reported by industry insiders as being worth approximately $400 million. It was described as a LeBron-sized deal, a reference to the kind of contract that only the biggest names in their field can command. The deal covered music rights, publishing rights, merchandise, and visual projects under one umbrella. It was comprehensive, it was massive, and it required Drake to deliver a specific number of album-length projects to UMG before the licensing term would end and he would regain full control of his catalog and his future releases.
For 2 years, the relationship worked, or at least it appeared to work from the outside. Drake kept releasing music, UMG kept distributing it. The machinery of one of the most successful partnerships in the history of recorded music kept turning. And then, in 2024, everything fell apart in a very public and very ugly way. The Drake and Kendrick Lamar beef did not start in 2024. The tension between them had been building for years, rooted in competing claims about who held the highest position in hip-hop, about who had been more influential, about whose legacy was more legitimate. Both men had made music that put them in the same conversation. Both men had, at various points, acknowledged the other's existence in ways that were not entirely warm. The kindling had been there for a long time. In March 2024, Kendrick Lamar appeared on a track called Like That with Future and Metro Boomin. On that track, Kendrick explicitly challenged the idea of a big three in hip-hop, the informal grouping of Drake, Kendrick, and J. Cole that fans and media had used to describe the top tier of the genre. He said there was only Big Me. He was not being subtle. He was calling Drake and Cole out directly and inviting a response. The response came, and then the response to the response came, and then the response to the response to the response. Over the course of several weeks in spring 2024, Drake and Kendrick Lamar exchanged diss tracks at a pace and with a ferocity that the music industry had not seen in years. Both men said things about each other that were inflammatory and pointed and designed to cause maximum damage. Both men revealed things, alleged things, and implied things that were serious. Kendrick's track, Not Like Us, released in May 2024, was the one that cut deepest. It accused Drake of inappropriate conduct with underage women. The lyrics were direct and specific in their accusations. They called him a predator. The song was produced with an infectious bounce that made it immediately popular in radio and in clubs, which meant the accusations embedded in its lyrics were being heard everywhere that music was being played. Not Like Us became one of the most discussed songs of 2024, and then it became one of the most awarded. At the 2025 Grammy Awards, Not Like Us won 5 Grammys, including Record of the Year and Song of the Year. Kendrick Lamar performed it at the 2025 Super Bowl halftime show in front of the largest television audience in American history. Drake's lawsuit against Universal Music Group, filed in federal court in New York in January 2025, did not name Kendrick Lamar as a defendant. This is a detail that is easy to overlook but extremely important to understand. Drake did not sue the person who wrote and performed the song. He sued the company that distributed, promoted, and profited from it. His argument was specific and pointed. He alleged that UMG had not simply released Not Like Us as a normal commercial release. He alleged they had used bots to artificially inflate its streaming numbers. He alleged they had engaged in what he described as payola, paying for the song to be pushed by radio stations and streaming platforms in ways that distorted its organic reach. He alleged that the UMG chairman and CEO, Lucian Grange, had personally celebrated Lamar's Grammy wins in a way that demonstrated the label's alignment with the campaign against Drake. And he alleged that the entire effort was designed not just to promote one artist, but to deliberately damage another, specifically to harm Drake's reputation and to give UMG leverage in renegotiating his contract. That last allegation is the one that gives this entire story its most disturbing dimension. Drake is not just alleging that his label promoted a competitor's music. He is alleging that his label used a competitor's music as a weapon against him, as a tool to weaken his position before a contract negotiation. He is alleging that the company he trusted with his career, the company he had built a partnership with over more than a decade, turned that partnership against him the moment it became financially convenient to do so. UMG responded to the lawsuit with language that was pointed and aggressive. They called it astoundingly hypocritical. They noted that Drake himself had participated and benefited from the culture of rap beef for his entire career. They said he had intentionally and successfully used UMG to distribute his own music and poetry to engage in conventionally outrageous back-and-forth rap battles. They said he was now seeking to weaponize the legal process to silence an artist's creative expression. They said his complaint was utterly without merit. They said he had lost a rap battle that he himself had provoked and was now trying to salve his wounds in court. In March 2025, after Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl performance, which included Not Like Us, Drake updated his lawsuit to add additional claims. He said the Super Bowl performance was designed to further the campaign to assassinate his character. The updated filing made the case that the ongoing promotion of the song, culminating in the most watched television event in America, represented a sustained and deliberate effort to cause him harm. In October 2025, United States District Court Judge Jeanette Vargas dismissed the lawsuit. Her ruling found that the lyrics of Not Like Us did not constitute actionable defamation because they were not statements of fact, but rather hyperbole, the kind of exaggerated language that courts have historically protected as creative expression in the context of rap music. The dismissal was not a ruling on the truth or falsity of the accusations in the song. It was a ruling that the song's language, as a matter of law, fell within the category of protected expression that cannot form the basis of a defamation claim.
Drake did not accept the dismissal. In late October 2025, he filed a notice of appeal. His legal team, in a 60-page appellate brief filed in January 2026, argued that the district court had made reversible errors. They argued that the court had relied on matters outside the pleadings, had weighed evidence improperly, and had made factual findings that contradicted the well-pleaded facts in the complaint. They argued that the dismissal created a dangerous categorical rule that rap diss tracks could never be legally actionable, which they said was an unprecedented and overbroad legal standard. They argued that the specific allegations in Not Like Us, calling Drake a certified predator and suggesting he engaged in conduct with underage women, were statements capable of being proven true or false, and therefore were not protected as mere opinion. UMG filed its own brief in March 2026, responding to Drake's appeal. The label accused Drake of hypocrisy. It reiterated its argument that he had built his career on exactly the kind of artistic expression he was now trying to suppress through litigation. The battle was fully joined in the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, with a ruling expected sometime in mid-2026. And then, on May 15, 2026, exactly 2 years after Not Like Us was released, Drake dropped 3 albums at midnight. The timing was not accidental. The music industry and Drake's own fan base understood immediately that releasing 3 albums on the exact second anniversary of the track that started the legal war was a statement. It was a declaration. It was Drake saying in the most public possible way that he was still here, that he was still the biggest artist in music, and that whatever had been done to him had not broken him. The albums themselves carried the message of where his head was at more explicitly than any press release could have. On the Iceman track called Ben's on the Table, featuring 21 Savage, Drake rapped a line that was immediately identified as a direct reference to the UMG lawsuit. He said he was fighting the man, not suing a rapper, noting that people were not listening. The man, not the rapper. He was publicly clarifying through his music that his fight was always about the institution, the corporation, the machinery of the music industry, and not about a personal grievance with Kendrick Lamar as an individual artist. On a track called Janice STFU, he rapped that his label had to free him. The word free. An artist signed to a $400 million deal with one of the most powerful companies in the world, rapping publicly that he needed to be freed from them. On Make Them Pay, he rapped that he was better off independent, that they should let him leave, that he just wanted to be free. The same word again, freedom. The language of someone who feels trapped, who feels that the institution that was supposed to serve his career has instead become the obstacle to it. The production and release mechanics of the three albums confirmed what the lyrics were suggesting. All three projects were released by OVO, Drake's own label imprint, under exclusive license to Republic Records, a division of Universal Music Group. This structure is significant for contractual reasons. Drake's $400 million deal from 2021 required him to deliver a specific number of album-length projects. By dropping 3 albums in a single night, he burned through deliverables at a rate that would bring him dramatically closer to the end of his contractual obligations. O'Shea Jackson Jr., rapper and actor and son of Ice Cube, posted on social media asking whether Drake dropped 3 albums specifically to get out of his deal. Industry analysts confirmed that this reading was entirely plausible. Dropping 3 albums at once in a contract that counts deliverables is a known mechanism for accelerating toward the end of a contract's term. Drake also released 17 full music videos alongside the albums, 17 videos in one day. The visual for Make Them Know included footage of Drake setting fire to a bot farm, one of the phones in the scene displaying the Not Like Us cover art. It was a pointed visual reference to his ongoing legal claims about UMG artificially inflating the song's streaming numbers. He was putting his allegations literally on screen.
The response to the releases from the music industry was split. Drake's fan base, which remains one of the largest and most active in music, responded with enormous enthusiasm. The streaming numbers confirmed the commercial power he still commands. But critics and commentators noted that the releases, however impressive in their scale, came across as the reaction of someone still deeply affected by what had happened in 2024, unable to move past the events that the legal proceedings had failed to address. Iceman debuted at #1 in 78 countries. The album and the single Make Them Cry set records for highest streamed artist and song in a single day on Spotify. The commercial results proved Drake's reach and relevance, but the content of the albums suggested a man who was processing something difficult in public, using music the way he has always used music, as the place where what cannot be said in any other context gets said. The Drake and UMG story raises questions that go far beyond one artist and one label. They go to the heart of how the music industry works and who it works for. Universal Music Group is the largest music company in the world. It controls approximately 30% of all recorded music globally. Its roster includes artists across every genre and every level of commercial success. It is a company whose decisions about which artists to promote and how to promote them shape what the world hears. When Drake alleges that UMG used a competitor's diss track as a weapon in a contract negotiation, the allegation, whatever its ultimate legal merit, describes a dynamic that artists have been experiencing and complaining about for decades, without the platform or the resources to do anything about it. Most artists are not Drake. Most artists do not have $400 million deals. Most artists do not have legal teams capable of filing 60-page appellate briefs in federal court. Most artists who feel that their label has prioritized institutional interests over their interests have no recourse whatsoever. They absorb the loss and keep making music under terms they did not fully understand when they signed them and cannot meaningfully challenge after the fact.
Drake has the resources to fight, and whatever the outcome of the appeal in the Second Circuit, the fight itself has been conducted in public in a way that has made visible something that the industry has historically kept invisible. The structural reality that even the most successful artist in the history of streaming, even the person who has generated more plays and more revenue for his label than perhaps anyone else alive, can find himself in a position where the institution that benefits from his success uses that benefit as leverage against him. The next chapter of this story has two possible endings. The first is that Drake's appeal is successful. The Second Circuit reverses the dismissal, and the case goes back to the district court for further proceedings. That outcome would force UMG into a discovery process that could expose internal communications about how Not Like Us was promoted and why. Discovery is the process that major corporations fear most in litigation because it requires handing over documents and emails and messages that were never intended to be public. If Drake gets discovery, the public record of what UMG did or did not do in promoting Not Like Us becomes dramatically more detailed. The second possible ending is that the appeal fails, the dismissal is upheld, and Drake is left to use his music as his only remaining weapon, which, based on what he has already done, is not nothing. 3 albums and 17 videos in a single night, debuting at #1 in 78 countries, is a declaration of independence that speaks loudly even without a court order to back it up. Whether he leaves UMG at the end of his contract obligations, whether he signs with another major label, whether he goes fully independent through OVO, or whether the two parties find a way to renegotiate what has clearly become a broken relationship, the Drake and UMG story is not over. The appeal ruling is expected in mid-2026, the contract situation will resolve in the months that follow, and Drake will keep making music because making music is the one arena in which no judge can dismiss his arguments and no label executive can suppress his voice. He said he was fighting the man. He said he just wanted to be free. And he said it in a song that debuted at #1 in 78 countries in a single night. That is not a man who has been beaten. That is a man who has calculated exactly how to fight back within the constraints he has been given. And whether you believe he is right or wrong about what UMG did, whether you think the lawsuit was justified or a wound-licking exercise by someone who lost a rap battle, you have to acknowledge what he has done with the tools available to him. He wrote it down, he recorded it, he put it out at midnight, and the whole world listened. This channel is here every single day covering the real stories behind the music, the business, the power, the people making decisions that most artists never get to question. Subscribe right now, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments below, do you think Drake is right that UMG used Not Like Us against him deliberately? Do you think the 3-album drop was a business move to exit the contract or just a creative statement? And do you think Drake versus Kendrick is actually over, or are we just in the quiet before the next round? Drop it all below. I read every comment, every one. And I will see you tomorrow with a new story.